All right, my name's Sam. I'm the creative director here at the Boonies, and I'm going to talk about my board and what I ride. It's currently a Cody McIntyre board, who you should be well familiar with by now, but I'm going to be setting up my board. I should have brought stickers. I didn't even think about that. Were you the one that told me about the upside down grip tape? On the truck spot, or was that Richie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna be setting up my new graphic for the Boonies. All right, so I ride an 8.5 deck, and that used to kind of be standard, I feel like. Growing up, I feel like most of my buddies rode 8.5, and as I've gotten older, I feel like a lot of people are riding small boards again, so I'm back maybe in the minority of riding what may be a fairly wide board. But for reference, I wear a size 9.5 shoe, 8.5 sometimes, depending on the shoe. And I think for a lot of people that would be pretty large in terms of shoe to board ratio, but that's kind of just what I've been used to. I like that the board has more mass and it flips slower, so I feel like I kind of get more control that way. But again, it's all personal preference when it comes to board stuff. When I grip my board, I usually will cut a line right in front of my back truck, just so that when I look down at my board, I know what front and rear is. I know a lot of people will do like a colored bolt in the front, but I kind of got out of that habit because I kept losing hardware or like stripping out my hardware. So I tried to stop relying on my hardware to know what front and rear is, but that could just be personal preference, I suppose. So I usually just line it up and then just do a cut straight down. And then I have my two sheets. And because I'm OCD as hell, I always make sure that I use the straight edge from the outside as my new inside. And then I start gripping. So this shouldn't be rocket science saying you guys at home set up your own boards, which should be everyone. I don't think anyone's setting up a board at Zoomies anymore, right? I should make my wife set up my board sometime and see how that goes. Wow. I didn't know those were Bluetooth. I've done a lot of different, I feel like I played with various gripping styles, and this was the one that stuck for me. There's definitely a season where I was doing a line straight down the whole middle, and the only reason I stopped was because it was so much damn work to do every time. And when I was street skating, I was going through like probably like a board a week, so I was like, I can't keep cutting grip like this. It's driving me insane. Now it's just purely for function. I like to have that line just to look down at. This is Jessup. It's not Jessup Ultra. We just happen to have a lot of Jessup here, so I'm trying to use what we have, but usually I will run Jessup Ultra, which is a little bit grittier than just the standard Jessup. I did Mob for a little while, and it was just way too abrasive. Like, I would go through so many shoes, and actually it kind of messed me up because I liked Mob once it was broken in, but getting it there always took so long, and I would just destroy my shoes getting it broken in. I know a lot of guys will take take a piece of scrap grip tape and like run it across the top, and I was really bad at that. So I would take too much off the top, and then I'd have useless grip tape for my brand new board. Yeah, then I'd have base Jessup. Yeah, exactly. I know Mob did M80 for a little while too, and I liked M80, but I don't even think they make M80 anymore. I can't find it. This is where I always mess up. So for a little while, I worked at Vans, and no one there really skated except for me and my buddy. And whenever they had like a mini pro shop there, and whenever kids would come in and like ask questions about boards, the manager would always make me answer the questions. And that was always a nice relief because I like setting up boards. I know a lot of people don't like it anymore, but I've never really lost my interest in setting up a board. And it was always a nice way to kill an hour of time at work getting to set up some kid's board. No, well, look, I mean, I had to make sure the grip was on straight, guys. Come on. But look at how much better I've gotten. We're only 10 minutes in, I'm already almost done.
Why did you start on the edge?
I don't know. It's just easier for me to get the razor in at the ends than starting here, because like the edges are always going to want to peel up, and they're already starting to do that a little bit. The cold doesn't help with the adhesive, but I always start at the edge and kind of work my way around, and I'm already messing it up right now as we speak. A lot of people get really anal about the cut, and that never really bothers me because so what I always do is you get these scraps once you're done, and I fold it over so that I have a double-sided, and then I run it around the edge to kind of taper the edge down so that you don't get, if you don't do that, a lot of times the grip, once I start skating, will start to peel. And then once it peels, then you're just cooked. My least favorite part is getting the bolt holes in. Oh, we lost one. All right, so the hardware I'm running right now, I think right now, honestly, I think most of it's Anchor hardware, and then I have one fairly new independent crosshatch bolt, and I don't know where that came from. I don't even know. I guess that's like an inch. I know a lot of guys ride longer hardware, and some hardware companies don't do the like non-threaded portion at the top, which I don't like because the threads will actually wear down the bolt holes and kind of like stretch them from like the friction of the truck moving around. So my biggest complaint about my board when I don't do it right is that my trucks will get a little bit of play, and that'll ruin my life. So one other thing I do, so I'll get another sheet of grip.
You're not a copy.
I am. And I'll cut a strip. We always have scrap grip laying around, so, and then we'll do this. So what I do and why I do this madness is, again, I cannot stand when my truck has play. And one of the reasons it gets play is, so my trucks are really old. So I'll just talk about my trucks right now because that's easy. These are stage like 9 independents. And I think they're 149s. I don't know, whatever size is right for an 8.5 with the axle coming right to the edge there. But they're really old. They still have the USA stamp on them. And these are like impossible to find now. I tried to skate, I don't even know, like 3 pairs of the new stage 10s and 11s, and I broke a kingpin, I got axle slip, and I broke a hanger. And I was just like, whatever, I'm gonna switch to like Ace or something. And then my buddy had a boss who was liquidating his closet, and he found 1 pair of the old independents. So I've had these for like 3 years, and this one's like getting pretty close to the axle, but it's not quite there. So I'm really trying to squeeze as much life out of them. But the issue is, the first thing that happens is on these, they're not terrible, but on the top it's pretty bad. The holes stretch from just so much torque on the axle all the time. And once that happens, and once the bolt gets a little bit loose, the truck will get play like this direction. And especially in my front truck, it makes me like, when I push, the board will kind of like wiggle, and that just drives me insane. So all of these other things that I do try to kind of negate that until I finally come to my senses and get new trucks. But so I get a square grip tape, and I'll put it upside down in between the bolt holes, and that kind of helps keep the truck from wiggling for a little while. It wears down, but it takes it a while. My old solution was, there was a company, and I think it was Aaron's distribution, that used to make really thin risers, and I'm talking like the width of like a nickel. Like, they were such a thin riser, and I was able to put those on, and they were made of urethane, so it kind of helped keep the truck in place. But they don't make them anymore, or I just can't find them anymore, and I always have grip tape on hand, so I've switched to using grip tape instead. All right, so I gotta remember which one's my front truck. The one with less marks, because I don't do nose grinds. The biggest madness I have with my truck, and I'll show this camera because you can see easier, is I run a terrible bushing setup. I have a upside down top bushing, an upside down top washer, and then no washer on my bottom bushing. And it's a long story on how I got to that conclusion, but it does what I want it to do. I ride my trucks really loose, and one of the biggest problems was that I ride them so loose that the bushings would slide around and the truck wouldn't center ever. So I'd get on my board and the board would just kind of go whatever way. Putting the bushing upside down made it kind of centers the truck because the top's thinner and what is the top is now the bottom. So when I put weight on my board, when I push on it, it kind of keeps the hangers central. And then I'm also running Riptide aftermarket pivot cups in there, which are like softer urethane than stock Indy. And that just kind of kills a lot of the like truck squeak that a lot of guys have. That annoys me. So, and I blew out my pivot cups. So that was an easy excuse to get new pivot cups. So I get a lot of strange looks when people look at my front truck. Shout out Riptide. I mean, it's cool because they make replacement pivot cups for like every truck on the planet, even longboard guys. I think it started as a longboard company. I don't know, and I forget who it was that told me about them. But I was a little bit hesitant because I hate changing stuff once I get the board the way I want it. I can't stand it once it doesn't do what I think it's gonna do. So I was hesitant to change that. But once I did it, I was like, okay, I'm glad I did it. The only thing it changed going to the Riptide pivot cups was it made the board feel a little bit looser, but I don't think it actually made it looser. I think it's just, honestly, I think it's more responsive because the stock Indy pivot cups are pretty hard urethane, and especially once they age, you kind of get like a little bit of play, like a gap in between where the hanger goes in and the pivot cup. And this kind of just got rid of that play. So I think if anything, they feel like they turned faster now. So, all right, so the wheels I'm riding right now, they're actually new, so they look ridiculous, but they are Formula 4 97 Duro urethane. And they are the 56 millimeter radial full. So they're the widest contact patch wheel they make. I think they're even wider than the conical full. And that's just because I skate a lot of like flat bars. So having a wider wheel helps me lock in easier. And I've kind of, as I've gone through skating, just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger wheels. To the point now where this is like the biggest I can go without just constantly wheel biting. And you'll see on my old board, I constantly wheel bite. So all my marks are like really deep. And usually when I show up to a spot or a park, the first thing I do is wax the face of my board and my wheel well. In the wheels, I'm running, actually right now, don't judge, but I'm running Swiss. And that is purely coincidental because someone gave me a set of Swiss. I would never buy Swiss because I'm poor. But until then, I think I would usually just replace whatever bearing broke with whatever I got my hands on. So usually if I had to buy all new bearings, I'd just get the standard reds because they never failed me. I've never had a set of reds that didn't do what bearings are supposed to do. So I've had to rethread my axles like 20 million times. So at this point, I don't even know if there are threads left on my axles. I've had to super glue my axle nuts on more than one time. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I run the correct one, which is Phillips. The foreign people in the room just gagged. I like Phillips, and the only reason is because I never have an Allen key on me, and my keychain has a Phillips head, so I always have it with me. And I find that I strip Phillips less than Allen, and a lot of people are gonna disagree with me on that, but that's just my personal history. I've stripped more Allens than I can count, and the Phillips, for whatever reason, are just harder for me to strip. I don't really have a preference though. If I had to run Allens, I'd run Allens. I really don't have a preference. But you know, it's whatever. In terms of shape, I really like flat boards until, I think for most of my time skating street, I was mostly riding Bakers and Death Wish, which are very flat boards. And I usually like a little bit shorter tail than nose. I usually like the tail to be a little bit more pointed than my nose. Lately, I've been skating a lot more full shape, which mean the nose and the tail just don't taper in as much. They kind of keep the circumference of like a semicircle a lot more. And growing up, I didn't like that. Lately, it seems like it works, so I'm kind of just running that for however long it works. But in terms of wheelbase, I think the shape that I used to skate was a 14.5 wheelbase, which is, I think, pretty standard for an 8.5. This one looks like it's shorter, but I think it's probably, if it's not 14.5, very similar. And I just like that, I don't know, in terms of, Ben Degers talks about this all the time with trucks and boards, but the wheelbase changing really affects the way the board turns. And usually if it hung longer or shorter, I would like a shorter wheelbase, just so the board's a little bit more responsive, but that's just personal preference. This shape's pretty, it's a little bit more concave than I would usually skate, but it's a nice medium, so it definitely still works. And the nose and tail shape are pretty standard too. It's a pretty generic shape all the way around, and I would much rather have that than some crazy shape that I can't skate. I cannot skate shape boards. I've never tried. I stood on a buddy's egg once, and I actually had a buddy who was skating only eggs for a little while and was like skating big handrails, and I don't know how he did it because I can't do it. It doesn't work. That's my setup. Arm Bears is available in the store at shop.bushingshq.com. You can get yours. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed my absolute madness of a skateboard setup. Thanks. Bye.